Hey guys, Dan for all Mr. Grey, Dandalf the Grey, and finally back after years of not making a video. I've been burnt out from work. I'm not going to get into it because I always bloody get into it. It's been a tough week. But anyway, a few of you suggested a while back, well, like last week or something, because this Halloween, or coming close to Halloween, that I would go over some of the horror films that have inspired me or scared the shit out of me over the years, from a little tiny person up to now. Yeah, I like a lot of films. For those new here, I'm a huge film guy. Huge. I always have been. Not just watching them, but like studying them and how they do things. That's been my thing since I was a little kid. But horror films has been my biggest jam. Is that and sci-fi. They're my two biggest things when it comes to movies. I really get creeped out by horror films, even though I love watching them. I love the thrill I get from them, the edginess, and some films they give you they're so disturbing and give you sense of dread. I love it. I'm not saying I thrive on it, I'm just saying horror films are good. So I thought I'd go through some of the ones I've enjoyed over the years. I'm going to get to more of the classics in other videos upcoming soon, but this one is a more modern video. More modern horror film, I should say. But I think it's one which doesn't get enough love in my eyes. I don't think it does, right? Even though it's a bloody good film, I'm sure a lot of people did like it. But whenever I mention it to someone, they say, it was a bit boring. It's one of my favourite horror films to date, and it's Hereditary. Don't expect like a deep dive review or anything like this. I'm just going to go over like a brief things in the film. Spoilers for those who have not seen it. I am going to spoil every single thing. Most of it, anyway. I'm not going to go over the entire film because it's a long film. It's a bloody good film. Go watch it. If you haven't seen it, stop watching this. Go watch the film and then come back. Have you watched it? Okay, let's go. So like I said, I know this is a modern film, but I will be getting to some of the more classics, which have inspired me in my filmmaking, my just overall enjoyment of anything horror when it comes to video games, movies, books, anything. It's always been horror. And leave a comment down below of what films you would like me to cover. Don't worry, it's not going to become a movie review channel now. It's just something I'm going to do because it's Halloween. I got a couple of other ideas for certain videos as well, but this is one of them. So I'm going off memory now because I haven't watched it for a couple of months, but I've seen it 5 times. I remember when Hereditary first came out, and I completely missed the trailer, which I urge everyone not to watch trailers. Trailers spoil the shit out of movies, if you ask me. Don't watch them. But I didn't, I sometimes see a clip of a trailer accidentally, or I was like, oh, I can't stop watching, I must see this trailer. Hereditary, for somehow, I completely missed it. Completely missed every single build-up to when it came to the cinemas. I didn't see it in cinema. I watched it in other ways. But after that, I did, obviously, the other 4 times after that, I did watch it correctly. When Hereditary first came out, I saw no trailer. I didn't see any media about it, any marketing. For some reason, I completely missed it. And then I kept seeing on Twitter someone saying Hereditary, one of the most disturbing films I've ever seen. I thought, that's right up my bloody alley, that. I found a really good copy to watch it. I have since paid for it. Don't worry. I've since paid for it. But my very first time I watched it, it was a really good copy I found. Can't remember where I found it. And I watched it at night on my own, obviously. And I was so disturbed by it. I was so bloody disturbed by it. I got to the end, and like the last 15 minutes is the craziest 15 minutes you watch in any horror film. If you ask me, I think it's brilliant. Don't expect jump scares in this, man. It's not a jump scare kind of film. I think jump scares are cheap, unless they earn them. What's the La Llorona and The Nun come to mind when it comes to cheap jump scares. This film totally earns, I think it's like one little tiny jump scare in it. The rest is just pure atmosphere and dread. It's brilliant. It's not that kind of film, so if you're expecting boom straight away, you're not gonna enjoy it. It's a slow burn. Well, it's not so much a slow burn. A lot happens actually in the first like 10 minutes. But yeah. I remember when I got to the end of the movie, I'll get into the meat of it soon, but I remember when I got to the end of the movie, and it stayed with me for days. I don't know why, but it really stayed with me for days. The soundtrack was playing in my head. What went on in the film was playing in my head. Like, it's like some disturbing shit. And I've said this so many times. I've said it on the live stream, I've said it in Twitter, I've said it everywhere. Toni Collette should have got an award, if you ask me. She should have got some kind of, I don't know, do they give Oscars for horror films? They don't usually. I think Sigourney Weaver had one, or like nominated, I can't remember. But she should have got some bloody award. Did she get an award? I might be looking stupid now if she did. No, she didn't. Which is shocking to me, if you ask me. It's absolutely shocking, because I think Toni Collette, she's an Australian actress. I think she's a really good actress. I've seen a lot of films, but I think this one is my favourite I've ever seen her in. Not my favourite, but I think she gives her best performance in this. She deserves an award, because the trauma she goes through, even though she's bloody acting, she must have blown out a few vocal cords making this film, I can tell you that much. I thought she was brilliant in it. And all the other cast as well, the kids who plays Charlie, I can't remember her name. Yeah, you had the two kids. Millie Shapiro played Charlie, the little girl, and Alex Wolff played Peter, the oldest son. But yeah, anyway, it disturbed me. That's all I'm getting at. If you've never seen it, like I said, stop watching right now. If you've never seen the movie, stop watching and you don't want it spoiled. Go watch that, then come back, because I'm about to spoil some shit. Okay, basically the film, it starts off at the end of the mother, not Toni Collette, but Toni Collette's mother life. Her mother has passed away. I can't remember what the reason or the way she passed away. I think it was just natural causes. But the mother has passed away. And the film starts at the funeral, basically, of Toni Collette's character giving a eulogy about her mother. And through this eulogy, you find out that things weren't sort of like clean-cut, wholesome back at home when the mother was around. It wasn't like bad or anything. Stuff might have happened, but they didn't take it as bad. But that's how the movie starts. It starts with a funeral. As the scene goes on in this funeral, like I said, this is in the first 5 minutes. As the scene goes on in the funeral, there's like certain things which you don't realize until like a second viewing. There's like certain people, the way they're looking and stuff in the background is like this film, by the way, although it's really good, it's even better at second viewing, because you notice things in the background which you don't really notice in the first watch through. It's your subconscious mind notices it enough to give you like a sense of unease and dread, and you don't know why. That's the kind of film this is. Throughout the entire film, you just get a sense of dread. It's really good. But as the film goes on, you realise then there's something not quite right with the family. It's not a terrible family, but Toni Collette's character, she starts like finding little clues of what her mother, not clues, but like things her mother used to do, and she's remembering back. She goes to like a therapy session where she talks about her mother, and she talks about certain things which happened growing up and how it was really weird, and like, you know, thinking back, maybe that wasn't pretty cool, my mother. And the daughter, Charlie, played by Millie Shapiro. Did I say her right? Yeah, I did. She's an odd one. The character, I should say, not the actress. The character is an odd one, right? You know, she's very secluded. She doesn't like being with people unless it was her grandmother, who's obviously passed away, and she's almost like distanced herself from her mother, Toni Collette, and her father, who wasn't it Gilbert Burns. The first quarter of the movie is just the oddness of the kid, Charlie. And there's one scene, not long after the grandmother's death, I should say, where Toni Collette's character, she paints little miniature dioramas, is that what you call them? I don't know. And there's a scene where she switches the light off, she looks into the corner of the room, and she thinks she sees the ghost of her mother. It's putting the hairs up on the back of my neck just thinking about it, because it's really good. But it's so subtle, but it's really good. So it gets to the point where Peter wants to go to this party, because he's like, I think in the movie he's like 16 or 17, I don't know. He wants to go to this house party, and his mother says, why don't you take a little kid along? Why don't you take Charlie, you know, the odd one, who's like clearly not old enough to be going to house parties. Why don't you take her along to this house party? It's just a bit stupid, if you ask me. And when he gets to this party, he hooks up with his mates. They want to go smoke some weed in the back room, and so he says to his little sister, when you go mingle, yeah, you're only like 13 years old, but when you go mingle with these older people, there's various things happening in this house party. There's people drinking, there's people smoking weed and stuff like that. And for some reason, it concentrates on someone making a cake. Now, who would be making a cake at a house party full of teenagers? I don't know who, but they do. And you can see them chopping up nuts. Now, in the beginning of the movie, which I should have said, which I forgot, the mother alludes that Charlie, her daughter, has a nut allergy, a severe nut allergy. If she eats anything with nuts. Yeah, if she eats anything with nuts, she's gonna probably die, alright? Foreshadowing. The party goes on, and for some bloody reason, Charlie, who's old enough to know better about her nut allergy, decides to have this cake. She doesn't know what's in this cake, it's just a big chunk of chocolate cake, while Peter is in the back room getting his bloody high on. She comes into the bedroom saying, I can't, I'm choking, I can't breathe. And this is where the film kicks off, by the way. This is where the film just gets absolutely bloody nuts. To the point, like, what the hell is going on? Anyway, Peter, obviously worried about his sister, decides to drive, even though he's bloody stoned out his mind, decides to drive his sister to the hospital or to the house, I can't remember. And they're going down this dark highway, dual carriageway, and she starts, saying, I can't breathe, and she winds the window down, and he's got his foot down, and as it's the craziest thing. I'm laughing because it's really bad. And like out of nowhere, she's out of the bloody car window gasping for air, and he's putting his foot down. Out of nowhere, boof! The head gets lopped off a lamppost because he has to swerve. It comes out of nowhere, and you do not expect it at all. And like right up into this part of the film, you think Charlie, the daughter, is like one of the main characters who's probably going to be throughout the film, or you even think, is she like the horror aspect of this film? But she dies in like the first 20 minutes, or does she? But it's some of the craziest stuff ever, and it's like they don't hold back. They do not hold back in showing what happened to her, this little kid, while she's being driven to the hospital. Anyway, she's dead. I don't know if that would happen from when your head leaves your body. She died. And the scene straight after that of Peter in the car, because he comes to a stop and he doesn't look behind him, and you can just, fair play to the actor, I can't remember the actor's name, fair play to the actor, just the panic in his face, and the fact that he can't look behind him in the seat because obviously the girl's body's in the seat without the head. It's such a good scene. It's such a bloody good scene. It's a really powerful scene to watch. And then you see Peter, the son, slowly drive away. He doesn't stay to scene of the crime or whatever. He doesn't stay for police. He just drives away. He's obviously in shock. And he goes to his house. He parks the car and goes to bed. Obviously he doesn't sleep. And then the very next scene, you cut to Toni Collette's character, obviously yesterday in the morning, waking up, and that's all you hear is the most horrific scream I think I have ever heard in a movie, in anything. This is what I mean. Toni Collette should have had an award or some shit. I'm telling you now. But honestly, it's such a disturbing sequence of events. Just that little beginning part of that movie is so bloody disturbing. What happens? And it's just like the performances of the people involved is so good. It's so good. It's so good. I might have to watch it again. It's been a couple of months. The gist of the film. Now, that's just like the first thing. I'm going to get into some other stuff, but I don't want to go too much into it, because even if I'm spoiling stuff, I still think you should go watch it. I think it's a brilliant film. It's a seriously underrated film, if you ask me. But anyway, it turns out there's a cult. Right? There's a cult who worships this deity called Payman. Hail Payman! It turns out that the grandmother was this matriarchy, if that's the word I'm looking for, of this cult who worshipped Payman, and the plan was Payman, who is like, I think Payman is real. Oh, I say real. He's like in the not history books. What's it called? One of the testaments or something. He's one of the gods of the underworld or something like that. I can't. I didn't go too much into detail when I was researching him, to be honest with you. But basically, he will grant you wealth and power if he comes to Earth in a body he desires. Mainly a male body, but for some reason he ends up in a female body, which is, in this case, is Charlie. But this is the reason. But the reason Charlie had to die is so he could inhabit Peter's body, the son. I think that was the plan, anyway. I'm fairly certain. I've seen it 5 times. I'm fairly certain that's the plan. Yeah, basically the grandmother was the leader of this cult all along. worshipping this deity called Payman. And their plan was to get Payman into the body of a male so he can live his life of, ruling the earth or what have you, granting wishes to his followers and stuff. We later find out as well that when Toni Collette was speaking in the therapy session in close to the beginning, she talks about her uncle, I think it's her uncle, took his own life. And she's kept on saying that before he took his own life, he was constantly talking about how her mother would try to put voices in his head. They all thought he was disturbed, mentally disturbed. But it turns out maybe she was. Maybe he was the first host who was going to, for this Payman dude. And maybe then that's because he took his own life, that changed to Charlie. And so on. Like I said, I don't want to go too much into it. I really don't want to, even though I've spoiled a lot, I don't want to go too much into it. Because even if I'm spoiling stuff, I urge you to watch the film. I'm going to skip to the end, basically. A lot of stuff happens through the film. Like I said, when you watch it a second time, you see things you probably saw in the film, but you couldn't add, 2 + 2 = 4. You're basically seeing something, you're thinking, why is she there? Why is this person doing that? And then when you realise what was happening, oh, okay, I get it. I get it now. But the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes of this film it's just bananas, bonkers shit. The stuff that happens in that last 20 minutes it's so insane. And it's just, you don't expect it. You just do not expect it. It's a supernatural film, obviously, but it's a very subtle supernatural film until the last 20 minutes. Basically, what they try to do throughout the film is traumatize Peter so much that the theory is with this Payman guy, if you traumatize someone enough, they'll lose. Jesus Christ, that scared the shit out of me. Yeah, basically they need to traumatize the son, not the mother now, but the cult members enough so his human barrier drops so this Payman guy can get into him, something like that. Does it in a way better way than I just explained it right there. And then the last 20 minutes, there's a scene where Peter is looking at something. I'm not going to say what it is, but he's looking at something. And then I remember watching it at the time, and I was watching on this copy, which is a pretty good copy, but it was a bit darker than it should have been. I was watching it, and for some reason I was getting on edge, just watching him looking at something. I was thinking, shit, I don't know why I'm getting on edge. And then I saw it. If Nuke was watching it, he would literally say, "Did you see it?" You see something in the background of this scene where you don't notice it for the first minute, and then it moves. Poop almost came out. It's so good. I can't do justice to this film with my little ranting, because like I said, I'm not going to go in deep with these review things. It's such an underrated film. I think it deserves way more praise than it got. Some people watched it and they thought it was boring. I thought I couldn't take my eyes off it the entire time. I thought it was brilliant. And the actors deserve so much praise. Like I said, Toni Collette deserved an award of some sort. Maybe not an Oscar, but something. Like a bloody lollipop or something. The soundtrack is really good. It's a very subtle soundtrack. It's not like booming music. It's not like big, fanciful orchestral music. It's really subtle until right at the end when the horns play. This movie only has a 7 out of 10 on IMDb, and on Rotten Tomatoes, and on Rotten Tomatoes it has, it has a 90% on the tomato meter, and 69, that's what she said, on the audience rating, which I think 69 is too low. 69% is not a bad rating for us, but I think it's too low for that film. But anyway, I'd probably rate this film higher than most, to be honest with you, because I think it's one of my favourite horror movies to come out in the last 20 years. I got a lot of favourites, which I'm going to get to in other videos, but for this one, Hereditary is one of the best, and I think you should watch it. Like I said, don't go in expecting a jump scare or anything like that. It's not that kind of film. It's a very subtle, I suppose you can call it a slow burn, disturbing horror film. Supernatural film. And it's really good. That was my non-review, because it wasn't really a review, it was just me spouting shit. And I hope you enjoyed. I really enjoyed it. If you got to the end of this and I just spoiled every single thing for you, it's your own fault. I did tell you. But still, go watch the film. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you like this video. Leave something new to my channel. I don't do this quite often, but I'm going to for the next couple of days. Anyway, thanks for watching, and bye for now.